විහිදෙන ජීවිතේ.
News First, main sponsor.
Sun all-purpose disinfectant spray.
Good evening and welcome. You're watching the weekend edition of Primetime News for tonight. Bringing you the news, I'm Tharusha Kumar Singha. Just before we start off, let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. KDK, the reliable fan.
Public Utilities Commission grants approval for daily power cuts from tomorrow. CEB says power cuts will be imposed only when necessary. China's Wang Yi meets President and Prime Minister, engages in a tour at the Colombo port and signs 2 agreements with Sri Lanka. People's Bank requests China to remove them from the blacklist. China manufactures giant tunnel boring machine for Sri Lanka. Walsapugala farmers' protest intensifies. Growing gas queues in the country. New tenders for gas supply.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. KDK, the reliable fan.
A news item that News First broke to you this afternoon has made it to the top of our bulletin this evening. The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has said it has allowed power cuts to be imposed daily from tomorrow. The power cuts will be imposed for 1 or 2 hours daily.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has said power cuts would be imposed for 1 or 2 hours daily from tomorrow. The Ceylon Electricity Board has requested the permission of the Public Utilities Commission to impose the power cuts.
CB has requested our approval for a power outage since they cannot probably meet the demand what is needed to supply the uninterrupted power to the country. So Commission has agreed in principle to grant the approval to CB to go ahead with the scheduled power outage.
News First contacted Ceylon Electricity Board General Manager M.R. Ranatunga on the scheduled power cuts. He said that there is no need to impose power cuts as the CEB is receiving fuel required to generate electricity. The CEB General Manager said they had sought permission to impose power cuts as a precautionary measure. He added that daily power cuts will be imposed if a need arises.
Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Minister and State Councillor Wang Yi left Sri Lanka this afternoon. Foreign Secretary Janath Colombo said the Chinese minister had signed several agreements during his visit. The Chinese minister arrived in Sri Lanka last night.
Chinese Foreign Minister and State Councillor Wang Yi left Sri Lanka at 1:30 this afternoon. A team of state officials, including Minister Namal Rajapaksa, were present at the airport as the Chinese minister left the country.
There were 2 agreements signed. One was 800 million RMB to promote investment in Sri Lanka and also to build 1,996 houses for lower income families in Sri Lanka. So there were a lot of discussions about how to enhance economic cooperation, trade cooperation, and we hope something good will come out of this visit.
Chinese Foreign Minister and State Councillor Wang Yi met President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat today. The Foreign Minister had said China will continue to support Sri Lanka as a close friend. According to the President's media division, the President has said it would be helpful if Sri Lanka's debt could be restructured due to the economic crisis arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic. The President had pointed out that industries can operate without any disruption if a concessional trade credit is offered for products imported from China. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi had invited the President to visit China and had said he expects his visit soon. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi joined the President and Prime Minister on a visit to the Colombo port city today. They inspected a photo exhibition marking 65 years of diplomatic ties between Sri Lanka and China and the 70th year since the Rubber Rice Pact was signed. The Sri Lanka-China Friendship Sailing Cup was inaugurated at the Colombo port city afterwards. The cup that would be awarded to the winners of the tournament was also unveiled. The Port City Marine Promenade public walking path was also vested with the public and will remain open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. The walking path is 500 meters in length.
The Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka has tweeted about the events that took place at the port city today. In its tweet, the embassy said that Sri Lanka is the real pearl of the Indian Ocean. The tweet also said that the Sri Lanka-China Friendship Sailing Cup was inaugurated today. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with the President and the Prime Minister at Temple Trees this morning. The discussions have shed light on topics such as assisting further in Sri Lanka's inoculation program, attracting investments to the port city and the Hambantota industrial zone, strengthening the tourism partnership between Sri Lanka and China, and increasing the imports of Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa had requested the Chinese Foreign Minister to grant the necessary facilities to the medical students who wish to return to China to finish their higher education. Considering the request, the Chinese Foreign Minister had instructed the Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka to work closely with the Foreign Ministry in this regard.
The last visit to Sri Lanka was exactly 2 years ago. Excellency, I want to thank the government and the friendly people of China for the generous support towards fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. We appreciate China's assistance towards our economic revival and financial stability. I look forward to continue working closely with you and the government of China in addressing common challenges.
You are a trustworthy old friend of the Chinese people. This year indeed is a very important year for our bilateral relationship. This demonstrates our two countries' strong character-defying power politics, and that is the strong character of our nations, and we have also defied the constraints of the Cold War. Signing of the agreement on economic and technical cooperation, exchange letter on the Colombo low-income subsidy housing project, certificate of submission of technical cooperation project at the Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall, and the handing over of the certificate for the project related to kidney disease ambulance support project also took place following the discussions.
We are crossing over to a short commercial break. Stay with News First. We will be right back.
News First, main sponsor.
Sun All-Purpose Disinfectant Spray.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
One disinfectant to keep your hands, home surfaces, electronic devices and personal belongings safe from bacteria, virus and fungi. Sri Lanka's first SLS certified disinfectant, now with lemon fresh and ice pine fresh fragrances. Sun All-Purpose Disinfectant Spray.
Welcome back to the news. Residents of Kumuka in Horuna staged a protest opposing the failure of authorities to refurbish a road in the area. The movement of vehicles along the main road from Horuna to Colombo was affected for about 2 hours as a result of this protest.
The Kumbukka-Batuvita road in Horuna is located a few kilometers from the Kathaduwa entry point to the southern expressway. Area residents took to the streets today against the failure of authorities to refurbish the road for several years. The protesters blocked the Colombo-Horuna main road in Kumbukka. It's been 2 years since they installed a board saying the road will be refurbished. No action has been taken yet. Vehicles don't come to take our children to school. We can't use a three-wheeler to transport sick patients. We have to carry patients on our shoulders until the main road.
We will take to the streets tomorrow as well. There is no other alternative. The rulers haven't listened to our problems.
Our correspondent reported that the movement of vehicles was affected for about 2 hours. Police officers from Horuna and Moragahatanna were deployed to bring the situation under control. The Horuna Pradeshia Sabha chairman arrived at the location with the intervention of the police. We shall hold a meeting with the road engineer, water board engineer and the NCC company involved in the project at 9:30 on Thursday. We can then begin using this road from next month.
The Federation of National Organizations has written to the President raising concerns over the deal to lease out the Trincomalee oil tank farm under harmful conditions for the next 50 years.
The Federation of National Organizations has said that leasing out the Trincomalee oil tank farm, which is an economic hub in the Indo-Pacific region, to a superpower such as India for 50 years is a highly questionable decision. The letter issued by the Federation said the decision will affect the country's future sovereignty, energy security and the government's image. It pointed out that the emergence of suspicion, doubt and opposition among the people is no surprise when the government signed the agreement on the 3rd as soon as cabinet approval was granted without obtaining the approval of the parliament or the society. The letter notes that the allegations citing that the agreement is of political nature rather than a commercial one cannot be avoided given these reasons.
Making headlines tonight, the People's Bank has requested the Chinese embassy to remove them from its blacklist. This move follows a payment to China's fertilizer company.
The People's Bank has said it has informed the Chinese embassy that it has made the payment to the Chinese fertilizer company. The bank said it expects the embassy to remove it from the blacklist. Sri Lanka had rejected a Chinese fertilizer stock as it was not up to the required standards. However, authorities paid $6.9 million to the Chinese fertilizer company after the Colombo Commercial High Court lifted an enjoining order. Yesterday, Agriculture Minister Mahindananda Ragama had said there is no mistake in paying compensation to the Chinese fertilizer company.
The Chinese company has agreed to provide fertilizer of proper standard. If we pay a $5 million collateral, the ship will return to China. The company will then manufacture the fertilizer again and send samples to the National Plant Quarantine Service for tests.
The Department of Agriculture said it will only allow organic fertilizer of a proper standard to enter the country. Its Director General Dr. Ajantha De Silva said Sri Lanka will only permit stocks that meet the standards of the National Plant Quarantine Service. He added that the ministry has informed the Chinese company of the required standards. Agriculture experts are saying that importing organic fertilizer with harmful microorganisms can cause massive destruction in the country.
According to the standard SLS 1709, the organic fertilizer cannot have any type of microorganism. Under the Plant Protection Act as well, it can't contain harmful bacteria. It seems that they are trying to use the Plant Protection Act to their advantage. The Plant Protection Act says that harmful bacteria can't be present. They are using the word harmful to their advantage and seem to be trying to prove the stock, citing that anything that is not harmful can be present. We can see that some officials are supporting that. The most secure solution for the country is to ensure that the fertilizer that is to be used in the soil should not contain any microorganism. This is not limited to harmful bacteria. There are viruses and parasites as well. Therefore, importing products with microorganisms based on only one report and then using it to our soil will have a serious impact.
The reaping of the harvest of the Maha season in the eastern province has commenced. Farmers allege that the harvest of this season has been exponentially low compared to the other seasons due to the fertilizer crisis. This is Puvarasantiv and Nadantiv in the Trincomalee district. Farmers say although they have used the organic fertilizer that was distributed by the government, a drastic drop in harvest could be observed. Farmers lament that they cannot make ends meet from this harvest as they have cultivated pawning their jewellery. We stock 35 to 40 bags of harvest usually during the Maha season, but we were able to stock only about 8 to 12 bags. We cannot even recover our costs. A group of farmers in Kotmalepura, Tambuttegama lit torches and engaged in a protest last night. They demanded compensation for the destruction caused to their paddy fields and fertilizer for the upcoming season. The government took swift steps to pay compensation for the ship carrying Chinese garbage. If they had at least given us the bag of urea using that money, we could have had a proper meal in the new year. The farmer has been battered by all fronts at present. The Private Rice Producers Cooperative Society in the Kandy district convened a media briefing today. They pointed out the issues that have arisen due to the drop in harvest. Rice mills are not functioning. Those employed in rice mills have lost their jobs. Rice mill owners are unable to settle their debt. If they are compensating for the loss in harvest, then small and medium scale mills that have a 65% production capacity should also be given compensation. The government must tell us how we can pay our workers. Farmers don't even have a single grain of rice. Farmers don't have rice. They have pawned off their jewellery. There is a shortage of paddy. We are predicting the harvest for the Maha season to drop by half. Rice mill owners haven't increased prices. If we do, there will be a shortage in the market. If the harvest of farmers is low, what can we do at these mills? It is said to note that state banks are auctioning off the country's rice mills. Meanwhile, several protests opposing the rising cost of living were held across the country today as well. A protest was held in Rakwana, citing the economic challenges faced by the people. The group marched from the Rakwana bus stand to the Rakwana roundabout. The first thing this government did as soon as they came to power was permitting companies and businessmen to control the country. Today there is a Ministry of Consumer Affairs. There are authorities to control prices. There is a Sri Lanka Standards Institute. Today there is no control in this regard. Meanwhile, the signing of a petition banner against the rising cost of living and the sale of national assets was held in Yakkalamulla today. Leaflets were distributed as well. On one hand, they are selling fuel. On the other hand, they are selling ports and airports. They are establishing companies like Selendiver and selling variable locations in Colombo. They are saying that the pandemic is the root cause of the economic crisis. Who is facing this economic crisis? Do Namal, Gotabaya and Basil Rajapaksa face this economic crisis? The Samagi Jana Balavege organized a protest in Peldenia today.
It is important to note that it's been 20 days since the farmers of Walsapugala restarted their struggle. The farmers are urging the authorities to properly implement the gazetted Wild Elephant Management Reserve.
The farmers and a group of villagers engaged in religious observances in line with their recommenced struggle, completing 20 days. Including the representatives of the Valawa Left Bank Farmers Association, representatives of 86 farmers associations have joined the satyagraha that is taking place near the entrance of the Hambantota port.
This is a democratic problem in relation to the environment. I consider these citizens as citizens of this environment. I am of the view that this government has to form an economic strategy with the consultation of these citizens. There was another satyagraha that was launched in Walsapugala in Suryawawa. Then the political leaders of this country said that they will gazette the Wild Elephant Management Reserve, construct the elephant fence and ensure the safety of the lives of these farmers and their cultivation lands. We were waiting, but they broke that promise.
The support of the Ceylon Teachers Union, Bank Services Union and the United Labourers Federation were rendered towards the farmers' struggle today.
We urge these authorities to implement this as they promised. Rulers who cannot resolve a wild elephant issue on their own has to be ashamed of themselves. If you don't care about these farmers, we are ready to unite with these farmers and carry out their struggle in the days to come. When animals don't have anything to eat in the wild, they breach fences and encroach onto the human habitats in search of food. The rulers say that there is no food shortage in the country. They say that they will import food if the country faces a famine. Our agriculture minister doesn't understand what we are saying. This is the city and the district of the president of this country. All these people voted for the president. These people are impacted because of an issue pertaining to elephants. I asked the president to reserve 25,000 acres for this.
News First reported to you the manner in which how citizens of Colombo have been terrified about the crocodiles seen in the waters of Sri Lanka. Today we report to you of an unseen side of this story. News First, Nisal Suryarachi reports.
31-year-old Teresa Tyagaraja is struggling to feed her family of 6.
ළමයි 4 දෙනෙක් ඉන්න ඔක්කොම අනිත් දෙන්නෙක් ඉස්කෝලේ යනවා එක්කෙනෙක් පන්සලේ පිරිවෙන ඉගෙන ගන්නවා එයා උගන්න ගන්න විදියක් නැතිනම් තමයි දාලා තියෙන්නේ අපි.
She earns a living by selling tea and food to people who visit the beach in Vallavatta. But today the beach is empty.
ඒ චූටි කරෙන් ආදායමක්වත් මේ දවස්වල නැහැ මට මුදේ නාන්න කරන්න එන්නේ නැහැ මිනිස්සු බය වෙලා ඉන්නේ සතාට.
Fear has kept people away from the beach after a crocodile killed a man at sea this week.
කට්ටියල තේබිවුවත් තමයි මට පොඩි ආදායමක් හම්බෙන්නේ ඒකත් දැන් මේ දවස් එකේ නෑ මට මමයි මගේ මහත්තයයි එක වේලක් කලා ජීවත් වෙන්නේ ළමයි තුන් දෙනා කොහොම හරි කන්න දෙනවා සතියක්ම ඉස්කෝලේ හරියේ නෑ ළමයි මට ආදායම නැති හින්දා.
About 800 families live along the coast from Vallavatta to the Hivala. Most of them earn a living by selling food to beach visitors. They have lost their income as people are staying away from the beach.
In front of me is Mount Lavinia. Behind me is the port city. Mount Lavinia is a vastly developed area in the country. Port City is the biggest development in the country. But between these two developments, there is a community that has been forgotten.
Residents say crocodiles enter the seas from canals in the area.
Behind me is one of the many canal entrances in the Dehivala, Mount Lavinia and the Vallavatta area. This is one of the many places where the canal meets the sea. According to the residents in these areas, this is one of the places where the crocodiles come to see.
Back at these huts, families like Teresa's are hoping that authorities fix the problem sooner than later.
Thank you, Nisal, for that report. In more local news, a man ended his life in Ragama after being attacked by a group near a supermarket today.
At about 10 this morning, a man had been spotted leaving a supermarket in Aldenia, Ragama. It is suspected that he had stolen goods from the supermarket. Our correspondent reported that the goods believed to have been stolen by the man had fallen near a three-wheeler parking area. This had led to a confrontation between a three-wheeler driver and the man. Eyewitnesses say the man had attacked the three-wheeler driver with a knife as the situation grew out of hand. Our correspondent reported that the man was attacked by a group of people about 80 meters from the supermarket. The man had then killed himself after threatening to end his life if he is attacked. They came here. I had just opened the shop. A group was present with weapons. He started attacking as soon as the group came closer. He started retaliating when the police came. He stood for some time and then he fell. Although there were many hospitals within a kilometer from the incident, the man had not been taken for treatment for 45 minutes. The items suspected to have been stolen by a man include a baby soap, a perfume bottle and powder. He was a 44-year-old who was discharged from the Ragama hospital after receiving treatment for a heart condition last month.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says the late chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Mr. R. Rajamahendran, was a humanitarian and a businessman of immense courage. He made these remarks during a program to donate medical equipment to the Telippale-based hospital under the Vipaksha in Husmak program.
The 37th phase of the Jana Suvaya Community Service Initiative took place today in line with the Samagi Jana Balavega's Vipaksha in Husmak program. Medical equipment worth 2,457,000 rupees were donated to the Telippale-based hospital today.
අද දවසේ මේ පරිත්‍යාගය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ මහරජා සංවිධානයේ සිරස ශක්ති මාධ්‍ය ජාලේ අධිපති R. Rajamahendran මැතිතුමාට පින් අනුමෝදන් කරමින්.
Today, we are making this donation to earn blessings for the late chairman of the Sirisa and Shakti Media Networks, Mr. R. Rajamahendran. Mr. Rajamahendran was a close friend of the Ranasinghe Premadasa family since I was a child. He was similar to a family member. He carried me when I was a child. He can be regarded as a highly successful businessman who started from the grassroots. When his entire business was destroyed during the Black July in 1983, he brushed away those ashes and rose to the top of the business community with utmost courage and commitment as a talented, skilled and ambitious person who also loves the people. We can call him as a humanitarian who is full of human values.
ඒ වගේම ජනතාවට ආදරය කරන ජනතාවාදී ජනහිතකාමී මානව හිතවාදී හැටියට අපිට එතුමාව හඳුන්වන්නට පුළුවන්.
The opposition leader visited the Nagadeepa Rajamaha Viharaya this morning and obtained blessings from its chief incumbent Thero, Venerable Navadagala Paduma Kitti Tissa Thero. Afterwards, the opposition leader also visited the Naga Pushani Amman Kovil and engaged in religious observances.
A giant tunnel boring machine manufactured in China for Sri Lanka was unveiled on Thursday. The machine had been manufactured to be used in the Upper Alahara Canal project.
The giant tunnel boring machine has been manufactured by China Railway Construction Heavy Industry Corporation in Hunan province. The Xinhua news agency reported that the machine has a diameter of 7.6 meters and would be used in the longest hard rock tunneling project in Sri Lanka. The Upper Alahara Canal project will take place under two phases. The first phase of the project would see a tunnel running between the Kalu River and the Moragahakanda Reservoir. The second phase would see the tunnel extending from the Moragahakanda Reservoir to Yakkala. The Mahavali authority says the length of the tunnel would be 28 kilometers. Water will be distributed from Yakkala through these canals.
I
saw that they are bringing down a machine to dig tunnels in Sri Lanka. they are trying to engage in fraud by trying to expedite the Central Canal project. The Irrigation Department's engineers have joined hands with the ministry's secretary and are trying to commit a fraud of $35 million through this tunnel project. There are massive rackets behind this.
A webinar titled In Pursuit of the Truth, Seeking Justice for the Victims of the April 21st attack was held on Zoom last night.
The webinar titled In Pursuit of Truth was organised by the Sri Lanka Australia Forum. Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, was among those who spoke at the forum.
The Presidential Commission report, only the first volume has been given to us. If they are honest and transparent, they should release all those volumes to the public so that we can investigate, we can check whether the decisions have been correctly taken.
The Archbishop of Colombo said more investigations are needed to understand whether there were political motives behind the attack.
The PSC also observes that further investigations will be needed to understand whether those with vested interests did not act on intelligence so as to create chaos in the lead up to the presidential election to be held later in the year. Such a situation would then lead to the call for a change of regime to contain such acts of terrorism.
His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith insisted that the judiciary and the people must be free of interference.
When the judiciary's independence is threatened, no one can get justice. That is our problem. The police has to be independent. A policeman has to respond to a situation without waiting for instructions from politicians. But today, the police has fallen to such a state that the IGP makes statements according to the dictates of politicians.
A large-scale gem mining operation is troubling the residents of Galgani Arava in Balangoda. A group of locals had visited the site of the mine today.
People of Galgani Arava say a gem mine has been operating in the area in the last 8 months. Although mining had been taking place on a private land initially, it has now been expanded to include a land in a nearby reserve. Locals say they have been unable to use a road near the gem mine that runs from Muthettua to Budunwela. What they are trying to do is engage in mining on a land belonging to a reserve and also by cutting across a river flowing to Kusgama. They break this wall of sand in the evening. The mud then flows to the village. The people in Kusgama don't have water to drink, bathe or use it for their purposes. They have been affected for 8 months. If a villager enters the forest to cut some wood, they would be arrested and then charged in court. Are they blind to what is happening here? If authorities don't provide a solution to this problem, we will stage a protest here along with the people of Kusgama and then halt these operations.
Gaslanka has called for tenders to supply gas to its company for 2022 and 2023. The contract would be awarded for a year. The tender advertisement draws attention to the possibility of making payments in any currency and not just dollars, and passing on the benefit to the people when prices reduce in the world market. Meanwhile, queues were seen for gas and kerosene in the country today as well.
People were seen in queues to buy kerosene at filling stations today. This was the situation at a filling station in Orugodavatta in Colombo.
කියන්න වචන නෑ මේවට. ලම්මුන්ස ලේන්සුවක් දාලා ඉඳ ගන්න කියන්න මෙතන. ඔය දේශීයසිපාම ඇවිල්ලා. එකෙක් ඇවිල්ලා බලනවාද මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට මොනවද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. එකම බూరు එක. මොනවද කරේ ඔකෝ? තවත් තිකුණා නිකන්.
A gas queue was seen at a filling station in Grand Pass to buy kerosene.
මේ ලාම්පු තෙල් පොලිම කවදා හිටියද අවුරුදු 15කට කලින් හිටපුව තමයි ආයි පටන් අරන් තියෙන පොලිමට.
කණ්ඩත් නෑ බොණ්ඩත් නෑ මේක ගෑස් දුත් නෑ. ගෑස් ගෙන්නලා ඉවරයි කියලා කිව්වා ගෑස් නෑ.
ඕක අරගෙන යන්නකො දැන් මොනවා කියවෙයිද දන්නේ නෑ. ඊට පස්සේ CID එක තමයි අපේ පස්සෙන් එන්නේ.
The Ministry of Finance has published a bill empowering the Treasury to collect 2 taxes. This includes the proposed special goods and services tax and the revised value-added tax.
The Finance Ministry has published a special goods and services tax bill. The tax should be paid on liquor, cigarettes, vehicles, telecommunications, betting and gaming. According to the bill, the tax will be collected by units set up under a Deputy Secretary to the Treasury. The practice of institutions such as excise, customs, airport and port collecting taxes will be changed with the new system. The Finance Ministry has also published a bill on increasing value-added taxes. That would be increased from 15 to 18%. Those bills have been published in line with the proposals set out in the 2022 budget.
Sri Lanka's tourist arrivals has declined by 61.7% from 2020 to 2021. But on a more positive note, official data show that tourist arrivals are now picking up.
A total of 194,495 tourists had visited Sri Lanka last year. It's a drop of 61.7% from 507,704 arrivals recorded in 2020. Most tourists who visited Sri Lanka last year were from India. They made up 29.3% of the total arrivals. Russia and the UK were among the other countries from which most tourists had arrived. Data show that tourist arrivals are now picking up. In December last year, 89,506 tourists had visited Sri Lanka. It's a drastic increase from 393 in December 2020. Central bank data shows Sri Lanka had earned $82 million from tourist arrivals between January and October last year.
Over some tragic news, Desmond De Silva, known as the king of Bailar music in Sri Lanka, passed away. He was 77 years old when he breathed his last while receiving treatment at a hospital in Australia. Some of his popular songs such as Yamang Bando Vesak Balanna will continue to echo in the hearts of the people. More local news this evening. The Navy has rescued a fisherman who had been swimming for more than 24 hours in the deep seas of the Sri Lankan south.
One fisherman had fallen onto the sea when travelling with 5 other fishermen on the Lakvidu 3 multi-day fishing trawler. The boat had left the coast on Friday. The incident had taken place about 8 nautical miles away from Tangol. The fishermen had been rescued by a Navy vessel that left the Galle harbour for whale watching about 7 nautical miles from the coast.
Meanwhile, an event to commemorate the 98th death anniversary of Sir Ponnambalam Arunachalam was held in Colombo this evening.
Sir Ponnambalam Arunachalam was a distinguished civil servant, statesman, educationist, scholar of several languages, and a person who was respected by all communities and served to the people of Sri Lanka during his lifetime. Garlanding of the statue of Sir Ponnambalam Arunachalam took place at the Presidential Secretariat premises. Retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, K. Sri Pavan, was the chief guest.
Nearly 3 months after the October elections, the newly elected Iraqi parliament met for the first time today.
The Speaker and 2 deputies will be nominated during today's Iraqi parliamentary session. Traditionally, the first parliamentary session would be tasked with electing a Speaker of the Parliament and his 2 deputies. But according to the agenda released by the Council of Representatives, it is unlikely that the Speaker would be confirmed. Parliamentary Representative Mahmood Al-Mashadani will chair the first session. This would be in accordance with the Constitution, as he is the most elderly member of Parliament.
An infant boy who was lost in the chaos of the US evacuation from Afghanistan was reunited with his relatives yesterday.
Sohail Ahmadi was just 2 months old when he went missing on the 19th of August as thousands of people rushed to leave Afghanistan as it fell to the Taliban. The baby was located in Kabul, where a 29-year-old taxi driver had found him in the airport and took him home to raise as his own. After more than 7 weeks of negotiations and pleas, the taxi driver handed the child back to his grandfather and other relatives still in Kabul. Mirza Ali Ahmadi, the boy's father, and his wife Sureya feared their son would get crushed in the crowd as they neared the airport gates while trying to board a flight to the United States. The father had handed over the baby over the airport wall to a uniformed officer who he believed to be an American. He had expected to reclaim the child after making into the entrance of the airport. But by the time the father, his wife and their 4 other children were able to get inside, the baby was nowhere to be found.
Over to some developing news from the sporting arena. Tennis star Novak Djokovic is facing fresh controversy as he has been spotted without a mask in public after testing positive for COVID-19 in mid-December.
Tennis world number 1 Novak Djokovic has been kept in a Melbourne hotel since Thursday. His visa was cancelled as Australian authorities said he...
Sri Lanka ve wada vishwasaniya pravruti sannamaya. News First. Oba lowa kotanaka sitiya. Apa oba samagai. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. News First. Oba jeevitaya. Apa pravruti.
And that's a wrap of the news. Thank you for watching and good night.